News just coming in from the Apex Court. The Supreme Court currently is dictating the final order in the Chandigarh Mayoral post rigging case. The CJI has said that the result sheet indicates that of 36 votes polled, 8 which were deemed invalid. The petitioner holds 12 votes while the 8th respondent holds 16 votes. Arvind Kejriwal hails the Supreme Court. Kejriwal has said thank you to the Supreme Court for saving democracy in these difficult times. So the court has ordered, remember, recounting of the 8 votes, the 8 ballot papers which were deemed invalid earlier by the returning officer Anil Masih, who's been hauled up by the court. He was seen making markings in those ballot papers. He in court said that that was because those ballot papers were defaced. Today those ballot papers were shown to him and he was asked to point out where exactly those ballot papers were defaced. Arvind Kejriwal has hailed the Supreme Court and has thanked the Supreme Court for saving democracy. My colleague Nalini Sharma is now joining me live for more on this. Nalini, tell us more about the order which the Apex Court is dictating at the moment.
Well, Paulami, it's been a firecracker of a hearing before the Supreme Court bench led by the Chief Justice himself. And what the court has done is not only has it gone through all of the ballot papers, especially those 8 ballot papers that were specifically marked by Anil Masih, who was the poll officer, and they've seen exactly what marks were made by Anil Masih, and they've questioned him also on what basis he was stating that those ballot papers were in fact defaced. And after raising those questions to Anil Masih, right now the bench is in the process of dictating its order. During the course of the hearing, the CJI has suggested that they can go ahead and direct a recounting of the votes while holding all of these 8 votes as valid, because these votes have not been included in the initial counting of the votes. So there might be a recount of the votes. We'll have to wait and watch. But right now the court is pronouncing its order. There have been some very strong arguments that have been made not only by Mukul Rohtgi, who was representing Anil Masih, but also by Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who was appearing for the Aam Aadmi Party as well as the Congress leaders. And what he said is that Anil Masih has been trying to mislead the court since yesterday. It's not just what he had done in Chandigarh during the polls that is relevant, but also the statements that he has given in the court, which directly hold him in contempt of court, because he is trying to interfere with the electoral process. And then ahead of that, he is also trying to mislead the court, stating that the papers, the ballots were defaced, which is why he's marked them. But at the same time, the Supreme Court has called for all the records. They've gone through not only the ballot papers but also the entire video footage of the proceedings to determine exactly what had happened right before Anil Masih was marking those ballot papers. And right now the Supreme Court is in the process of pronouncing its order. It remains to be seen as to whether or not there will be a recount of votes or the court will order a fresh election. But it seems right now that the Supreme Court is going to go ahead and say that there is going to be a recount of votes so that these 8 ballots that were initially not included can be counted, which will essentially turn the tide as to who comes as the mayor in Chandigarh.
Okay, so basically also, what does this mean for the election process that was held earlier? Nalini, if you could explain that.
Well, Paulami, if I'm not wrong, the winning candidate, the candidate who was at least pronounced victorious, had I think about 16 votes or 18 votes, and the Aam Aadmi Party candidate had 12 votes. So these 8 votes are going to be extremely crucial for the Supreme Court, and what decision they take with regard to these 8 votes is going to be extremely crucial, because that is going to eventually determine who is victorious in the Chandigarh mayor polls. So keeping that in mind, it remains to be seen what the Supreme Court decides, because this decision could mean the difference between either a BJP candidate coming into the seat of the Chandigarh mayor or a candidate from the Aam Aadmi Party or Congress coalition coming into power. So it remains to be seen what the Supreme Court does, but at the same time the Supreme Court has ensured that this matter has been taken up with the highest priority. In fact, yesterday when the hearing was happening and after Anil Masih had given his explanation, there was a request made by his counsels to the court that the hearing be postponed to day after tomorrow instead of being kept today. But the Supreme Court said that no, this is an issue that directly impacts the electoral democracy of the country, and there will be absolutely no delay, which is why in less than 24 hours the Supreme Court had asked for all the records, including the complete video footage, to be brought before it so that the bench themselves can go through the footage, can go through the ballot papers, and then can decide what needs to be done. So now all of that process has been completed, the arguments have been made, and it remains to be seen what happens. Anil Masih's counsel, Mukul Rohatgi, has told the court that it was his opinion that those ballot papers were defaced. Whether he's right or wrong is a completely different subject. But at the same time, it was his opinion, and he should not be called a thief for that.
All right. Okay. Nalini, thank you so much for bringing us all of those details from the Supreme Court. Remember, the court is still dictating that final order.